Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome back. This video is about introduction to MATLAB, and this video is very much necessary if you are new to MATLAB and you want to compile all the codes of the course numerical analysis and computation using MATLAB. So let's get started. Whenever you open the MATLAB, you will see the interface like this. This is the default interface of MATLAB. On the left hand side, you will see current directory. Below current directory, you will see workspace. And if you click on the new button, you will see the editor window and your command window go below the editor window. Let me open the MATLAB and here it is. Whenever you open the MATLAB, you will see something like this. If not this, then you can click on the layout and you can set it to default. For example, uh, my MATLAB is something like this. When I open it and I will click on the layout and click default, I will see something like this. Now if I click on the top left corner, here it is new script and I will have editor window also. So these are the basics window of MATLAB: editor window, command window below the editor window. On the left hand side is current directory and the workspace. Now let's have a look on the current directory. Current directory is a current folder in which MATLAB is currently present. You can change this current folder. For example, I made a folder on the desktop with MATLAB Lab and I want to change my current directory to this folder. So my current folder should be this MATLAB Lab. I will click on this browse folder button with green arrow and I will move back to that folder in which I want to go. So MATLAB Lab and I will select this folder. So my MATLAB is currently in MATLAB Lab folder and this is empty because there is no file saved in this current folder. Now let's have an idea of command window. I will double click on this blue place and all my screen will be like command window. When I double click it again, I will go back to my default layout. So let's work in the command window. For starters, I can say command window is a temporary place. Whatever you do here, you cannot recover it if you close the MATLAB or if you clear the command window or clear the workspace. I will explain this in detail later. So let's type the first command in MATLAB. The first thing in coding is variable. Variables are the most important part of programming language. You store everything in variable and then you apply some conditions on those variables. So in MATLAB, you can store a number in a variable. Like in capital A, I'm storing 1. When I hit enter, in capital A, 1 is stored. I can even store a matrix in a variable by typing square brackets and then 1 2 3. This is my first row. Space means I am moving to next column. 4 5 6. After using the semicolon, I am in the second row now. So first row will be 1 2 3, then 4 5 6, and then semicolon. This will be my third row. If I hit enter, this will be my matrix of 3 cross 3, 3 rows, 3 columns. If I want to store a vector, I will just type 1 space 1 space 1. This will be like row vector, or 1 semicolon 2 semicolon 3. This will be like column vector. The vector is a special matrix which either have one row or one column. Okay, you can store a number in a variable. You can store a matrix in a variable or vector in a variable. Vector is a matrix, of course. Or you can use some built-in command of MATLAB which can bring a matrix and that can be stored in a variable. Like there is a built-in command to generate a random matrix. It's rand I for integer matrix, and then I will enter the range of my numbers which I want to see in my matrix. Like the range is from, for example, 5 to 10, and then I will type the dimensions of a matrix, like it is 7 cross 8 matrix, and I will close the small bracket and I will hit enter, and you can see I will have a random matrix of integers. The range of numbers in a matrix is from 5 to 10, and the dimension is 7 cross 8, like 7 rows and 8 columns. Whenever I type this command again and again, I will see a totally different matrix because it's the random command. There is an algorithm behind it which generates a random matrix. I'm typing this again and I'm getting the different different matrix of same dimensions. If you want to see your previous commands to save time, to not enter them again, you will just hit the up key, then you will see your previous command that you entered in the MATLAB. So now I am editing this command and then storing in F variable a random matrix, should from 1 to 8 for example, and the dimension is like 3 cross 4, and I will have another matrix in variable F. You can even store a function in a variable. To do that, you will type your variable, like for example small f and then equal sign. The syntax is at the rate, and then in the small brackets you will type your independent variable of a function. Like for example, function is depending on small x, and then you have to write the function in small x only. For example, the function is x square x cube plus x square plus 1. For example, this is the function. So whenever I call this function and then I evaluate it on some number like f of 4, I will see some answer. So this is like 4, function evaluated at 4, and I did not store this f of 4 in any variable. So MATLAB generated by default variable ans. So whenever you do that, you do not store something in some variable. So MATLAB use a default variable of ans and then store it in that variable. Now let's go to the default layout and see what happened with workspace. You can see all your variables that you introduced in a command window are there in a workspace. Whenever you click any of the variable, like I'm double clicking the D variable, I will see what is stored in D in like an Excel sheet, you can say, in a table. Or I click double click on a variable E, I will see a matrix that is stored in E. So I think I introduced the workspace. So workspace contains your currently present variable. We are like you can call them anywhere and you can access them. So if you want to clean the command window, you will use the CLC command. CLC command just clean the command window, but your variables are still in the workspace. Whenever you call A, it will see what is stored in A. Whenever you call capital F, it will show you what is stored in the capital F. But if you use clear all command, clear all, now you cannot recover. Like if you call A, there is no A. If you call B, there is no B in the workspace because you cleared the workspace, and now you cannot recover those variables. So that's why I called the command window temporary. Whatever you do in command window, it is temporary. If you use the clear all command, you cannot access your variables again. So let me use the CLC again to clear everything. So now there is nothing here, nothing in the workspace, nothing in command window, and we have not seen yet that what is editor window. Now, if you want to do something permanent, like if you are writing a code, a script of 100 and 1000 lines, you will do that in editor window. It is not recommended to do that in command window. Basically, in editor window, Your script will be saved, and whenever you run this, it will go back to command window line by line, and you can run it, and every variable that you use in editor window will go to the workspace, and you close this window, your code is still saved. You close the MATLAB, your code is still saved. Whenever you open your code again, you run that code, everything go back to workspace, and you can access your all variables in the command window. So if you want to do something permanent, you want to write some script, you will use editor window. For example, I am storing a matrix in capital A, for example, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 4 5 6, and then 7 8 9. In capital A, I stored this 3 cross 3 matrix, and I entered the entries on my own. And in capital B, I am storing a random matrix by using the built-in command of MATLAB randi, which I told you just now. So the range of the numbers are like 1 2 3, okay, 1 to 9, for example, and then the dimension is 3 cross 3. For example, it will be stored in B. It will generate a random matrix every time. And I am storing the sum of these two matrices in variable C. So this code will add A and B matrix and then store it in capital C. This is just the purpose of this code. So I'm just showing you how editor window works. So if you are not in this editor tab, for example, you are in this home tab, so you have to click this editor tab, and then you will run your code from here. Whenever you run this, it will ask you to save that code. Now it is recommended, but it is necessary to not use any space between the name of the file. Like if you are typing this star space 0, it will not work. The code will show the error. So you have to save it without spaces, and do not start your name with the integer number. For example, 0 task. So it will again give error. So try to start the name with some alphabet, and then you can use the integer with 8, but no spaces, no dashes even. You can use underscore, but no dashes. So task 0, I saved this file as a task 0, and after saving it ran, and you can see I have an A matrix, I have a B matrix, and I have C, which have addition of those matrices. And in the workspace I have my variables. Now let me teach you one important thing here. If you use semicolon in front of your any command like this yellow warning will disappear, and what will happen? Let me clear the command window and then CLC. Now if I run this, you will see nothing in the command window, but your variables are still there. They are in the workspace. Like if you call them, they are present, but there is nothing in the command window. So if you want to suppress the output in the command window, you will use a semicolon sign. You don't want to make your command window rushy, you use a lot of semicolons in your code. If you want to see something in the command window, then you can like remove the semicolon in front of them. Like I am removing the semicolon in front of C. Let me name it like a double D add. You can name the variable like this. And keep in mind, variable names are case sensitive. Like small c is another variable and capital C is another variable. So I'm storing this in add, and I'm running this code again, and you can see in the command window you only have this add variable a double D, and you have addition in it, right? Let's do some basic tasks from slides. So this was all about variables. You can store a number in a variable, a matrix, even you can use a built-in command. I will teach this built-in command to you later. And keep in mind that variable names are case sensitive. Or you can store a function, even a function in a variable. And that is not restricted. You can only use a function of one variable. You can even store a function of two variable uh, in a single variable. Like my f function is depending on x comma y. So I will use something like this, and then function in front of it is like x square plus y square. Variables are case sensitive again. So this is my f. Whenever I call this, I have to input two variables like x value and then y value. So function evaluated at 1 comma 3 will give this answer, and I did not store this in some variable, so MATLAB used the by default variable ans. You can see here in the workspace also. So let's clear everything and move back to slides. Some basic operations like you can sum the matrices. Of course, their dimensions should be equal. So this matrix, this sum is a matrix sum. Like this is subtraction. This is multi. A steric B is a strong multiplication. Like it's basic matrix multiplication. First row, first column, first row, second column, first row, third column, something like this. A divided by B is like A is multiplied with B inverse. So you can see it like this. And then a raised to the power b, it will give error. When you type this, it will give error because you cannot see matrix raised to the power matrix. A dot steric b means element wise multiplication, a dot slash b element wise division, a dot raised power element wise power. Okay, let's type these commands in command window, and then let's store something in a and b first. So in a, for example, you have 1 2 2 1. I am taking a very small matrix, and in b you have 1 3 3 1, for example. Now a plus b is simply addition. I'm not storing it in a variable, so it will be stored in a by default variable ans. So then a minus b, it's subtraction of a minus b. uh, it is the same subtraction that we do in matrices. Again, I did not store it in some variable, it is stored in ANS, so it will override the previous ANS. That's the disadvantage. So A steric B, let's see A first, let's see B first. Now A steric B is simply matrix multiplication, but A dot steric B is element wise multiplication. Means the first number will be multiplied with first and second with second, third with third. Like 1 multiplied by 1, 2 multiplied by 3, 6, 2, 3, 6, 1, 1, 1. So this is like element wise multiplication. It is not standard matrix multiplication. A raised to the power b will give error because matrix we do not see matrix raised to the power matrix. A forward slash b will be like b inverse a. You can see, you can verify it if you know how to do inverse in matrices. A dot raised to the power b will work because it is element wise power. Let's see a and b here, so you can have an idea. So a1 will raise to the power 1, 2 will raise to the power 3, 2 raised to the power 3 is 8, and then 2 raised to the power 3 element wise power. So 1 raised to the power 1. So this is the answer you can see here. Okay, these are just the basic commands. Let's move forward. So I am clearing everything, clear all, and then CLC to clean the command. So these are the basic commands. CLC clear all, I already told you. DISP command is to display some content of an array or string on the screen. We use this command in our editor window a lot if you want to show some message to a user or the value of some variable to a user. Even you can display a string. You can type this command in search documentation and you will see all its syntax. This is the search documentation that I am talking about. At the top of the command window, you will see this. Like I am typing DISP. If I click on this, I will see uh, all the possible syntax of DISP. All whatever I can use or whatever I can display using DISP command. And then fprintf command, we use this command a lot in our codes of numerical analysis and computation. This is very beautiful command. Like you can display the content and the variable of the value of the variable at the same time. Like you can merge them in a single output. So we will introduce this later. These are other some basic commands to access some corresponding entries, corresponding rows or columns. For example, my A matrix is, let's use some previous command, random command. Okay. For example, it is in my F matrix. So if I want to access the second row of F, I will type this, and it I'm storing this in uh, row 2. Okay. In row 2 variable, you can have the second row. And if I want to access the third column, for example, I will type colon comma 3. So I will have third column of that matrix in this new variable called 3. If I want to access some entry, for example, I am storing this in entry, uh, I am accessing the third row, third column entry. 3, 3, I guess it's 1. Yes, it is 1, third row, third column entry. So I will type something like this, f of 3 comma 3. So it will access the third. There are some built-in commands like commands of zeros. It will generate a random matrix of, sorry, not a random matrix, the matrix which contain all the entries zeros. The dimension is 3 comma 4, 3 cross 4. And then ones, then rand. You can see this command in the search documentation. I command will generate a identity matrix. Okay, let me. For example, in Z, you are storing zeros of 4 comma 5. So its dimension is 4 comma 5, and the matrix has all the entries zeros. And in O, for example, you are storing ones of 3 comma 6, for example. And identity matrix, I of identity matrix is always a square matrix. So if I am writing I of 8, I will see something like this. Okay, there is one another thing. If your matrix is very large, for example, I am generating a random matrix, a very large random matrix, for example, 100 cross 100. The entries are ranges from 1 to this. So there is not enough space to display the all the columns in a single in this screen. For example, it is restricted till 21. If your font size is more larger, then you will have less column than 21. So my total columns of the matrix are 100. So what MATLAB do is like columns 1 through 21 means uh, like 21 columns, but all the rows. And then from 22 column to next 42 columns, it will display below it because screen is restricted. Screen restricts it, and then at the end you will have all your 100 columns. It is recommended to see the large matrices in, of course, workspace. You click on that variable, you will see all the entries very nicely, and your whatever you want to access, you just click it, and here it is. So large matrices should be seen in workspace rather than in command window, because you will get confused if you see those in command window. So I'm using CLC again, and then clear all again. All variables are cleared, and let's move back. Okay, this is task 1. I recommend you to perform this task like if you are learning MATLAB. So write a code. A code means you have to write this in editor window, which takes two matrices as input from user. Oh, let me teach you the input command. Okay, for example, this is my editor window and A and B matrices. So I will, because my question told me that you have to store this matrices in capital A and capital B. So I am using capital A for my first matrix, and I am using input command. This small input command, whenever I run this code, this will allow user to input some entries. The syntax of input command is small input, and keep in mind all the built-in commands should be in small letters, or always in small letters. So I am displaying a message enter a matrix. To make sure that user should enter a matrix, and in capital B, I'm again depending on user for capital B. And I'm, for example, I say a good match like first matrix and then second matrix. A good message on a screen to take input from user makes you a good programmer. So in capital A, it will store take input from user. In capital V, it will take input from user, and then it is displaying back the addition. For I am just doing the first part of the task, like uh, first display the addition of your matrices is, and then I am storing this in add, and A plus B is just the addition. I'm not using the semicolon, so to make sure that it should display this add variable on the screen. You can even use this add variable in a DISP command. You can learn the syntax from there, but I don't like DISP command to display the variable and the content at the same time. I prefer fprintf command. So if I will run this code, because it is saved in task 0, and you can see there is autosave file generated. When you close this MATLAB, this autosave file will vanish. So the extension of MATLAB file is .m. So you always have .m file whenever you save your script file. When I use the control S, that star sign at the top of task 0 will vanish. If I do something again, there will again a star sign. It is displaying that your latest code is not saved. So if I use control S, it will be saved. Now this will be my latest code in task0.m file. If I run this code, you can see now I am a user. It is displaying a message and it is still blinking. It is not moving forward. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see it is saying waiting for input. Okay, I am entering a matrix, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a very basic code. Like if a user enter A and B differently, this code will not judge it, and MATLAB will give it by default error because addition of the matrices of different dimension is not possible. So let's first learn the basics, right? So I have to enter a 3 cross 3 matrix again, like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can even use random built-in command also. Okay, let's use it. For example, I am using rand I, and then 1, 2, 3, and then 3 cross 3. So this is my A, this is my B, and the addition of your matrices is add equals to this. I hope you can complete the first task now, and you have to show the multiplication of these matrices also, then inverse of A and inverse of B separately, determinant transpose of these matrices. You can search about the built-in commands of what is how to compute determinant using built-in command of MATLAB transpose and inverse. uh, Let me give you an idea. To calculate the determinant, you just use det of that variable. It will calculate the determinant. Okay, sometimes you see a number like this, e raised to the power minus 16. It means it's 10 raised to the power minus 16 number. If you want to get rid of this e small e sign, you use format short g in you type format short g in MATLAB for once. You can search about all the formats from the documentation. Now if I calculate determinant of a, it is again showing this. I guess there is something else. So you have to search the formats. Just type format in search documentation, and you will see, click on the first format and you will see all the possible formats of the MATLAB. Here are these formats. Like if you type format space short, you will see your outputs of a numbers like this, and there are multiple options. Okay, so let's close this here and move back. So I hope you can complete the task one now. That was all about variables for starters. Now the next basic thing in coding is branching statements, if-else statement. So you type the condition in front of if that condition holds, then you go into the body of that if. So before introducing you the branching statements, of course, you need to learn the operators. Like equal compares the variable with some number. If that holds, that if is true. Not equal, check that if that variable is not equal to that thing in front of it, that number in front of it, or whatever. This is for less than, this is for greater than, like in all programming language. This is less than equal, this is greater than equal, and you have and or operator. I will show you when you use these operators. And if you want to see, like and or operator are for more than one conditions, and operator you use when you want to see all those conditions true and then move into the body, and or is just if just one of them is true and then you move into the body. I will explain this. Okay, so now moving toward the branching statement, because we will use these operators to use the conditions in front of if. So if else statements, it is recommended to type if else statement in an editor window, of course, and I'm removing everything from here, clearing all. It is recommended to use clear all and CLC command at the top of your code, at top of your every code that you type in editor window. So whenever you run this code, if there is something in the command window or in the workspace, it should clear it all and then run your code. Okay, the syntax of if. Before typing the syntax, for example, I'm storing a number in X, for example, 1, and I'm using the semicolons. I don't want to see this number. Now I'm typing the if statement. You type in small if and it will turn into the blue color, and then you type the condition in front. Like I'm typing a condition, if X is greater than 0, then a body, and you type end for every if. That red sign will go away. Now this is the body of this if. Like if the condition in front of if is true, then you move that into you move into this body. Like if X is greater than 0, I'm just displaying on screen uh, your number is positive, and that's it. Since in X I have 1, okay, so it will always display whenever I run this code, it will display on the screen that your number is positive. I'm running this code, it will go into this body, and of course my number is positive. And if I'm storing in -1 in X, so there is no if for negative number. Like this if is only true for X and there is a negative number in X. If I run this code, there will be nothing on the screen. You can see the code is executed, but there is nothing on the screen. But there is X variable which is -1 in the workspace, so it is guaranteed that the code was executed. Now, if you want to use more than one ifs, you will type else if. Keep in mind, else if also need condition in front of it. There must be a condition in front of else if. So it is connected to the above if. If that is not true, the code will check this if, and if this is true, then move it into this body. Like for example, x is less than 0, and I am displaying. If this is true, then I am displaying your number is negative, and that's it. So there is no error in my code because my if and else is not. If I do not use this and, then there will be error. Like there must be and. So this complete structure is connected. If x is greater than 0, this is true, move into this body and then end the code. If this is not true, then check the next if. Then move to, if that holds, then move into this body and then end. Okay, if I'm executing this code, you can see x is a negative number and this condition is holding, so it is moving into its body and showing your number is negative. Now what if x is 0? So there is no condition which is checking if either x is 0 or not. So there is no if for it. If I'm executing this code, there will be nothing on the screen because this is not true. It will not move into this body. This is not true. It will not move into this body. So uh, as a programmer, it is always recommended to use an else statement. Else statement does not need any condition in front of it. Like it is a by default body in which your code will move if there no if is true. Like no if is true, then your code will move into this else. This is a default. So in default, your number is 0. Okay. So now if I'm executing this code, because both the ifs are not true, both conditions are not true, so it is moving to by default else. This is the basic structure of if else. If you want to move, if you want to use more than one conditions, then you will use else if, because else if required a condition in front of it, but else doesn't require any condition in front of it. But if you want to check more than one condition to make this if true, then you use and or operator. Okay, for example, I have two numbers, x and y. If they both are positive, I'm checking. Like AND operator will work if this both will true, then this if will move into this body. Your both numbers, I am changing the body. Okay, so both numbers are positive. And here I am using OR operator. Like if x is less than 0 or y is less than 0, then your either number is negative, or you can say your, yes, your either number is negative. Okay. Now we will see how these work. If I run this code, I will see your number is 0 on the screen because uh, y is greater than 0, but x is not greater than 0. So of course there is an AND operator. These both statements should be true to move into this body. So it will not move into this body. Now your x is not less than 0 and your y is also not. Either of them, if either of them was less than 0 or negative, your code should move in this body, but it is not true in this case also. So if I run this code, I will see your number is 0 on the screen again because it is moving into this default else. So let's run this code and see your number is 0. It is displaying. Now, if my x is 2 and y is 1, both numbers are positive, this first condition will hold and then code will terminate. And after displaying what is in its body. So your both numbers are positive. Okay. Now this one. Now x is negative but y is still positive, but I use the OR operator here. So either of them, if either of them is negative, it will move into this body. So let's run this code and you will see your either number is negative. This is how and OR operator works. I hope you can make this code more user friendly by using the input commands in front of those variables, like enter first number and then input command in front of it, enter second number if you use space after ending your text, it will be nice because your cursor will blink one space ahead from these alphabets. Now this code is user friendly, but uh, it is not made for all possible inputs. Like it will work for x greater than 0 and y greater than 0, but not either of them greater than 0, and not both of them negative. So there must be some more conditions here. I hope you can type those conditions here, but the code is now user friendly. Like if I enter 1 and 2, your both numbers are positive. I hope you can write all the possible combination of inputs, and all the you can write all the if else for all the possible combination of inputs. Okay, that was all about if else statement, and now let's move back here and you will see a task 2. I recommend you to complete this task. You have to write the MATLAB code which takes a number, one number as input from user if the given number is less than 0 and integer. Now you have to use the two conditions like and with AND operator. Number is less than 0 and integer. Now the thing is how you will check that the given number is integer. I am giving you an idea, like you can use the remainder command. Whenever you to take the remainder, you use built-in rem command. For example, I am storing in capital rem of some integer with 1. Like I am dividing 7 with 1 and checking the remainder. It is 0. I am dividing negative 7, negative integer with 1. The remainder is still 0. Okay, I am checking a 0. If I divide 0 with 1, the remainder is still 0. So it is guarantee if you divide an integer number with 1, if the remainder is 0, it is guaranteed that the given number is integer. Okay. Okay, let's verify this from other perspective. Like if you type a number which is not integer, like 7.1, remainder is other than 0. It's not 0. 7.3, remainder is other than 0, not 0. And like 1.25, negative 1.25, the remainder is other than 0. So it is guaranteed that if you divide a number with 1, if the remainder is 0, it is integer, the given number. And if the remainder is not 0, it is not integer. I hope this will help you to complete the task number 2. Okay, let me do the task 2 because I think most of my viewers might be beginners. So I have to write a MATLAB code which takes a number as an input from user. So let's go back to the command window and make a new script file. Use clear all and CLC at the top of the code, and then take a variable, for example x, and store a number in it depending on user. So enter a number. I am displaying this on screen. I'm using this colon sign to make it look more beautiful when this command will display on the screen. I'm using the semicolon because after entering that number, I don't want to see that X popping up in the command window. So my number will be stored in X. Now the next thing to check if either this number is integer or not, I already told you that store a remainder rem of that number. That number is in X. By dividing it with 1, I'm storing that in R. Now you see if in R I have 0, the number is integer. If in R I don't have 0, the number is not integer. I explained this earlier in the command window, right? Now I have to type the if else statements, and I have something like number is less than 0 and integer. Number is greater than 0 and integer. So if number is less than 0 and number is integer, integer or not integer, and number is less than 0 and integer. For integer, r must be equal to 0. As if number is greater than 0 and integer. Else if I'm writing all the possible conditions first. If number is less than 0 and not integer, how I will see it is not integer? If the remainder is not equal to 0, like other than 0. And else if uh, number is greater than 0 and not integer, like not equal to 0, and there must be some else that is required in question. I should display in that case, check your inputs or whatever. Now my there is a red line below the if because there is no end. If I type the end, everything will be fine. Now I have to write in the bodies, like if number is less than 0 and an integer. If number is less than 0 and integer, it should display square of that number. So I have to display square here. Now I am introducing here an fprintf command uh, because I want to display and text and a variable value. Okay, so the syntax of fprintf command is fprintf, and then I will show square of your number is or equal to. Now here I want to show him what is the square of his number. So I am using percentage d command here, and after that I am using backslash n. I will teach you this. Okay. This in the when I run this code, and if this if is true, it will display square of your number equals to. Now what is the square? This percentage d is directly linked to whatever I type after this comma. So first percentage d will be linked with the whatever I type after the comma. If there are more than one variable that I might be using in my code, so I will separate them with different commas. Now this percentage d will take the value from the variable that I will use after the comma. I am displaying the square in this case, so x raised to the power square, and that's it. Backslash n command is for line change. Okay, if I do not use this backslash n command, fprintf do not change the line by default. Okay. In the other case, if the number is in that case, I have to show square root of that number. For square root, I can use even built-in command sqrt greater than 0 and integer, and I will be using, I will be displaying. So square root of your number is equal to, now square root can be in decimals, so I'm using percentage point 4f command to just 0.4f means I will be seeing the answer up to 4 decimal places. If I use 6 here, then the answer will be like 6 decimal places. Okay. Now this percentage point 4f is directly linked to the variable that I will use after comma, and the variable is square. So you can you know that square root is like number raised to the power 1 by 2. I can even use that thing here. Number raised to the power 1 by 2. It will display square root of the given number x. And then you can copy this fprintf again in this body. In this case, if number is less than 0 and not integer, you have to show the cube of that number. So cube of that number is simply raised to the power 3. Be careful about the brackets, like in this case you can just type x raised to the power 3 because uh, x is raising to the power just a one number, not a fraction. So if you use fraction, you should enclose that fraction in a square bracket like I did in the above one. Okay, in this case I am displaying cube of your number is something like this, and I'm also displaying it up to 4 decimal places. You can even increase this. So this is the beauty of fprintf command, like you can even display your number up to your desired decimal places. So in the last case, you should show cube root of your number, and here you should enclose this in small braces, and it should be 1 by 2, x raised to power 1 divided by 2. Be careful about enclosing this in 1 divided by 3 in bracket, because if you just type 1 divided by 3, it will just raise x to the power 1 and then divide the answer with the 3, which is not what we require. Okay, so this code is complete. Let's first run this, and we have to save it. Like I'm saving it with task 2 with no spaces, of course. Now I have to enter a number. The number I'm entering a number 3 which is greater than 0 and integer, of course. Greater than 0 and integer, it should display square root in this case. So square root of your number is equal to 1.7, because I wrote 4 decimal places here. If I write like 7 decimal places, I'm running this code again. I'm entering like 5 which is greater than 0 and integer. I'm getting the answer up to 7 decimal places. Now let me elaborate the fprintf command more. Like if I want to show that square of your number, like square of, if I type like square of the give, I'm typing that number instead of typing this message like square of. So I should use percentage for it, like percentage D, like D is for standard. If you do not want to restrict, whatever the number is, it will display as it is. So 0.4f and f is to restrict it to some decimal places, but D is just like uh, whatever the value will be in the variable, it will display it like that. So square of percentage d equal to, so first percentage d must be linked with first variable after the comma. Since the number is in x, so this percentage d will be linked with that first thing after the comma, and this percentage just tell him that you have to take this value in sequence after the comma. So first percentage will be linked with this, and the second percentage will be linked with the second variable. So in that case, it will display square of, then x will be that number of the user, and then this percentage d will display the square. Okay. Okay, let me run this code and I will give a number which should go into this thing. So it should be less than 0 and integer, like minus 6 for example. So square of minus 6 is equal to 36. I hope you understand the if else statements, and you also understand uh, how fprintf works. So this is my favorite display command that we will use in this complete course of numerical analysis and computation. I will use this fprintf command a lot. Okay, let's discuss another basic thing of programming, and it is loops. So we have two kinds of loops, for loops and while loops in case of MATLAB. So let's learn the loops. For loops, the basic syntax is like for. So you start with small for, it turns into the blue color, and then you define a variable of loop like I, if the variable is I, and then you define the starting point of the loop and the ending point of the loop, and then there must be an end for the loop. In case of MATLAB, for every for there must be an end. Same like for every if there must be an end. So inside the body you can do anything, and that thing will be repeated uh, whenever you enter into the body of the loop. So for example, I am displaying the value of I, dispi. If you want to display variable value of the variable, you write it without apostrophe symbols. Okay, if I run this code, let's see what will happen. Okay. You can see I have the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which clearly means that the by default increment of I was 1. So first time I took the value of 1 and then displayed it inside the loop, because inside the body of the loop I use dispi, or you can also do anything else inside loop like disp hi. So it will repeat whenever you enter into the, so whenever you enter into the body of the loop, it will display hi and then display the value of I. Now I run this code. You can say, you can see it here. Now the by default increment of for loop will be 1 uh, if you do not give it increment. So if you want to give increment of your choice like 0.5, for example, you write that step size between that two colon signs. Now the I will take the increment of 0.5. So first time the value of I will be 1, then next time it will be 1.5 because increment is 0.5, and so on. So you can see from here, uh, high 1, then high 1.5, high 2, high 2.5. So it is taking the increment of uh, 0.5. So I am just displaying the value of I to show you the increment. You can also write the loop in descending order, like you're starting from 10 and you are going to 1, for example. So you will give decrement here. So for decrement, you use the negative sign. So 10, it will take the decrement of minus 0.5 and then it will move backwards till 1 and then it will stop. Let's run this again and you will see what will happen. Right? This is the basic structure of for loops. I hope it is enough to show you how loops work. Now, in case of while loop, the syntax of while loop, you write while it turns into the blue, and then you write condition or conditions. More than one condition you can use and or operator. So for example, I'm using while loop and I am saying I is greater than 0 and then and then I am inside the body, I am displaying value of I. Now the first problem in this code is I do not introduce I, like the value of I. What is the value of I? If I display it outside, I have to give the value of I before while loop start. For example, I is equal to 5. Now since I is greater than 0, uh, and um, I will enter into the body of the while loop and I will display the I. But the value of I is not changing. Like it will always be 5 and it will always be greater than 0, and we will go into the infinite loop. Let me run this code to show you. Okay, I'm running this code. It is displaying I, and I is not changing inside the loop, within the body of the loop or outside the loop, you can say. So this is I am trapped in an infinite loop. In that case, you just hit this pause button and then quit debugging. Okay. So whenever we use while loop, we should be very careful that our variable, the value of the variable on which you are using the condition of the while must change. The value of this variable must change within loop or outside loop. So for example, inside the loop, I say I is equal to I minus 1. So for the first time, it will take the value of I which is greater than 0. Of course it is greater than 0, it will display it and then it will decrease the I by 1, and when this condition will be false, this while condition will be false, it will not go inside the body and the code will end. Okay, you can see 5 4 3 2 1, and then after 1 it will be 0, which is clearly not greater than 0, and in this that case while loop will end and our code will end because there is nothing after the while loop. This is the basic structure of for and while loops. And let's do the task 3 to understand the loops better. Write a code which takes a number as input from user and give back the table of that number. If the given number is less than 1 or not integer, then it should display that table not found. Okay. For this type of code, first of all, I should have a number which I take as input from user. So I'm taking this in x small x. Enter a number. I'm displaying a message. Enter a number to print its table. Its table. Semicolon to suppress the output. And now there are two conditions also. Like the number should be, if the number is less than 1 or not integer, then it should display the table not found. Which means the table should be found in case of the number is greater than 0 and it must be an integer. So I must store, to check the integer, I will store remainder of that number with 1 in. Now if the number is greater than 1 and it is integer, in that case I have to print table, otherwise I should display table not found. And there must be an end for if. Inside the body of if this condition holds, like your given number is greater than 1 and it is integer, in that case I have to print the table. To print the table I should use the loops. Now I'm using the for loop in this case. For variable of loop may be I 1 to 10. By default increment will be 1 because in case of tables we take the increment of 1 and we normally go till 10 to print the table. Inside the loop I will use this fprintf command. This will print the table very nicely. The first thing, it should be d, percentage d, a number. Then there should be a multiplication sign. I am writing x for it, and there should be another number and the equal sign, and there should be multiplication of both, and then there should be a line change. Now the first percentage d should be linked with my original number whose table I am printing, like x, and then x multiplied by 1, 2, 3, 4. This percentage sign will be linked with the number which takes the value 1, first time 1, then 2, then 3, and that is the variable of loop. Like I will take, first time it will take the value 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. So here it should be I, it should be linked with I here. And the third thing, percentage d, it should be the multiplication of x and I. So it will be like x carry I, and then I will end this f.f. That's it. Okay, let's run this code, and I am giving a number 4. So you can see it printed the table of 4 very nicely. 4 ones are 4, 4 twos are 8, 4. Okay, let's run. If the number is less than, okay, if it is not integer like 1.4, it is showing that table not found. And if it is negative like -1, it is showing that table not found. So that's it, the task is complete, and I hope you understand the basics of loops. Okay, but if I want to do this with while loop, like the same thing with while loop, in that case I will write while I is less than or equal to 10, and I have to give the value to I before it. So I is equal to 1, while I is less than equal to 10, print this. But inside the loop, I should increase the I, like I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, let's run this. And 3, yes, the table is printing using while loop. And -1, table not found because it will go into the else in that case. And you can say 0, table not found. And 7, table is there. Okay, that's it. Okay, the last thing that we're going to learn in introduction to MATLAB is going to be plotting. This is again one of the basic thing that we should learn for the course numerical analysis and computation. In case of plotting, the first thing, since we are going to do 2D plots, so first thing is introduce your vectors of independent and dependent variables. Okay, let's move back to MATLAB and command window. For example, I want to plot the graph of x squared like parabola. First of all, I have to give the values of independent variables, like how many values on x I need, against which I will compute values of x square, and then I will plot them. So to divide the interval on x-axis into small parts, there are two basic commands. The first one is linspace. It's not line, it's linspace. And the syntax is like linspace, and then you will give your interval. Like for example, -10 to 10, and then after comma you will say into how many parts you want to divide this interval. Like I want to divide this interval into 1000 parts, right? I'm giving semicolon because there will be 1000 values and I don't want to see on command window. If I see it here, like you will see that my x is divided from -10 to 10, and there are actually 1000 total parts. The next thing is I will introduce my function in the variable y, like y is equal to x dot raised to the power square. Like for every value of x in this x variable, because it is an array, for every value of x, I will take the square of all those values and I am storing that thing into the y. Now my y will also be a array of 1 cross 1000 or a vector of 1 cross 1000. Now x and y vectors are the same, dimensions of both are the same, and this is what is necessary for plotting in MATLAB. So now I will use the plot command, like plot x comma y, independent variable comma dependent variable. So I will see a nice plot of parabola from -10 to 10. You can see that the x values are from -10 to 10, and this is the graph of parabola. There is another way to divide the interval into small parts. Like I divided the x interval into small parts using linspace command. The other way is you just use this interval command. Like I want to go from -10 and I will divide it into I will take a step size. Not in this case, I will be independent of choosing the step size. In the above case, I was not able to choose the step size, but the total number of subintervals. In this case, I'm independent to choose step size, like I am taking the step size of 0.01 and I'm moving till 10. So in this case, you will see, let me go to the command window, workspace, sorry. And you can see in this case, it's the vector of 1 cross 2001. So there are total 2001 values, but the step size is smooth as I wanted, 0.01 step size. First value is -10 and the last value you can see will be the 10. Now again, I will compute some function, like in this case, if I want to compute, like I want to plot the graph of sine x. So I'm evaluating all these values of x. This is small x, so I am typing this small x here. I will compute all these x. I will compute sine of all these x values and then store it into the y variable, and you will see that my y will also be now a vector of 2000 cross 2001 values. And now again I will use the plot command, and you will see the graph of sine from -10 to 10. So the basics of plotting is you need two vectors, vectors. First one vector of your independent variable, and second one vector which contain values of the dependent variable, and then you will use the plot command. I'm moving toward the third step. I will move toward the first third step, which is beautify your plot. But first I will teach you another command of 2D plots, which is fplot command. Fplot command is, you can say, a simpler command. In that case, you have to introduce your function. Like I am introducing a function in variable f, and I already introduced you with how to store a function in a variable. So you will use at the rate sign, and then in small brackets you will use a variable. Like this function is depending on small variable x. Okay, just say it's depending on small variable y. Then you have to type all the values in form of y. Like I'm drawing the function of parabola again. So y square. My function is like y square, or function of one variable. Now I will use a fplot command. Fplot command is very simpler. Like you use fplot, and inside this small bracket you will use the variable in which your function is stored. So my function is stored in small variable f. If you do just this, if you do just this, you will see. Let me plot it again. There was previous plot. Okay. If you do just this, the MATLAB will take default x values from -5 to 5. If you do not want to take the values from -5 to 5, instead you want to give your own interval. In that case, you will separate this with comma, and then you will introduce your interval like -10 to 10. And that's it. In that case, your interval will be from -10 to 10. Just ignore these warnings. The orange things are warnings. They are not errors. So your code will run in that case. We are not getting into it that what sort of warnings are these or whatever. Now moving back to the third step of plotting, which is beautify your plot. Okay, let me close all the windows. If there are some other windows open like plotting windows, you can use the command of close all, and it will close all the windows. If you want to plot more than one curves in a single plot window, in that case, uh, first of all, let's for example you have x as x from -10 to 10 and divided into intervals, and then for example your first function is x dot. In this case you have to write dot with every statement. Like if the function is x squared, you have to write x dot raised to the power square. Like you will take the square of every value. If you do not do so, it will give you error. Okay, in y I am storing the function parabola. In u, for example, I am storing function sine of okay, x dot raised to the power cube, and in z, for example, I am storing the function sine of x. Okay, now I want to plot all these functions in a single window. I will use plot x against y, comma, then x against u, comma, then x against z, and I will hit enter, and all these plots are on a single window. Now I'm going to teach you the last thing, which is beautify your plot. Some people will teach you like there are built-in commands of everything. If you want to label your x-axis, there is built-in command. If you want to label your y-axis, there is built-in command. You can search in the MATLAB documentation. Or if you want to change the color, there are built-in commands available. Color of your curve. But I suggest first plot your graph, and then at the end beautify it. When you have this plot window in MATLAB, click on view and then move to the plot browser. It will open a new window for you. In that window you can play with your plot, like you whatever you want to do, you can do it here. When this window opens, you can click on the curves from the right hand side. Like this is blue curve, just double click on it and you will have something like this. If you want to name it, like the blue curve was, I guess it was parabola, so it was the graph of y is equal to x square. I'm naming it here, and also I'm changing the width of the line. Color is fine with me, and then this orange was y is equal to graph of y is equal to x cube, and I'm naming it as y is equal to x cube, and then width again 2, and the last line, for example, it's y is equal to sine of x graph. I don't like this color. If I want to change the color, I will change it from here, for example black, and then the width again is 2. You can also use the markers if you want from here, but I'm not doing that. Okay, then close this thing. Now click on this X is no title thing. If you click on it, this window will pop up. It will ask you to type X label. For example, I'm writing it as X axis, and title of the graph is graphs of three functions, for example, and Y axis, I will label it as Y axis. Also, it is not quite visible that the first one is graph of parabola and the last one is of sine function. So let's change the limits of your y-axis, like do it from -10 to 10, for example, and then you will see it clearly that these are the required graphs. Okay, if you want to use legends, you will just click this button and your legends will be here. This will take the same name that you named at the start, and you can move these legends also anywhere in the graphing window. There are many more options to explore. You can explore it on your own. So the final step is to save your plot. To save it, you will go to File and then you will use Save As. It is suggested if you want to change this plot later, save a MATLAB figure file as a backup. But if you don't want to change it later, do not save it as a MATLAB figure file. Save it as JPG if you want to insert it into some report, and then it will save the file in the same folder because our current directory is that MATLAB lab folder. I'm saving as it as figure 1, for example, and then save. When I go to that folder, you will see a figure file there, and here it is. So this is the last step, like beautify your plot. You can beautify it from plot browser, as I told, and that's it about plotting. You can also do 3D plots and much more in MATLAB. You can just search it from here, like search documentation. There is command of plot 3D, and also there is command of mesh, which is used for 3D plots. You can explore from here. I think that's all about introduction to MATLAB, which is needed for this course, numerical analysis and computation. I know there is a lot more to explore in MATLAB. So we just learned a drop from an ocean. This video will be, at least this video will be enough for beginners to start with the MATLAB, and everything else you can learn from the internet and Google. And that's it. That's all about introduction to MATLAB. If you are new on this channel, please hit the subscribe button. See you in next video.